So this is a Chinese name seal, and this one just says my name on it right here, Cao Meisun. And typically these will just have 3 characters, but today I'm going to try to carve a little bit of a different one. It will have 4 characters on it, and it will look just like this. I'll translate here. This says Cao Mei Sun Tang. Tang means collection. So this kind of seal will be used a little bit differently. The one that I just showed you here usually will be used to sign some legal documents, or like I use it, for example, to sign up for a bank account here. And you'll just stamp your name. It'll act like your signature. Usually they will have some sort of stamp pad, or traditionally they will use this kind of paste like that. And yeah, that's what this one is used for. But the one I'm going to be using today is traditionally used for putting on artwork. So in the West, you might think of this as something kind of weird, but in traditional East Asian, especially Chinese art, if you are a collector, you might have a collector stamp. And if you collect a new piece of art, you would stamp your name on it. And yeah, like I said, this might be kind of seen as like defacing art in the West, but actually in East Asia, this was seen as a symbol of appreciation. So it would also add value to the art. If you had a piece of art that had tons of collector stamps on it, that means it was valued by tons of different people. So it would actually add value to the art. That's why some world famous, art pieces in museum will have tons of different stamps over them. So I'm not really a collector of art, but I do have a lot of books, and I'm just going to use this as a book plate. So if I ever get a new book, I'll just stamp my name in there, and it will, like I said, kind of act like a book plate. So as a part of my journey to get ready for getting this stamp carved, I did go to 3 different art stores, and I wanted to talk about the different kinds of art stores in Taiwan. If you're not interested in that, you can go ahead and skip to the carving portion of the video, and I'll show you the carving and the stamp. But the first art store that I went to was more of maybe a student art store. They had some fine art stuff and oil paints, acrylics, sculpting, things like that. The reason I went there is because I wanted to see if there was a tool that I could use to carve the stone better than the one I already had. And I couldn't really. I did find some things for lino printing, but I don't think they were much better than what I already had. For the carving of this stone, I pretty much ended up using this kind of blade. It's a V-shaped blade. I do have some other ones here. This one is kind of a slanted knife style, and this one is similar to the other one, but it's more of a U shape and it's much larger. You'll see in a bit the stone that I had wasn't that big, so this V-shaped one was good enough for me. Traditionally, I've also seen some that are kind of like this knife blade, but they're flat at the top instead of angled like this. I have used those before. I don't know why, I just couldn't find it right now. So I ended up using that one. Maybe I somehow misplaced the other one. The other place that I went to was a traditional kind of Eastern art store. They had art supplies for Chinese calligraphy and carving. So they had plenty of different blades that would have worked for what I wanted to do today, but they were a little bit more expensive than I was anticipating. And that is actually the same store that I got the stone at. Another thing that would have been useful for me would have been a stand. They also have stands for carving seals if you're interested in that. I, however, was only going to be carving this one single stone, and I don't think I'll be carving another one anytime soon. But if you're interested in making this more of a hobby or getting into that kind of art, there are different stands that you can purchase there. If you want to go to one of these kinds of traditional art stores in Taiwan, I'd recommend going to NTNU, my old school. The street across from NTNU, they have tons of different traditional art stores. So if you're interested in calligraphy, even books on calligraphy or seals and books on seals, and the different materials or tools that you'll need to actually do that yourself, I'd recommend going there. The third place that I went to was another maybe art store for students, but for college students. So a lot of the supplies were more expensive and more fine art-esque. So they had canvas and oil paints and things like that, different mediums. For this one, I didn't really actually think I'd find anything that I was in need of for this project, but I do have some oil paint supplies I brought from the US, and I do want to get back into that, so maybe that will be in a future video. And just want to let you know, if you are interested in that kind of art, there is that kind of store available as well. That store I went to is actually in the night market of NTNU as well, so very artistic area. So I also want to talk a little bit more about the seal before. This is the seal like I showed before, but I want to talk more about the script. So this is a seal script. There are different scripts in Chinese, and I really like the seal script, especially for seals. The one that I have showed you, the one that I showed at the beginning of the video is not like that. It's more like modern day Chinese. But this one is traditionally used on seals or bronze. It's much older, and I have not studied this before, but I did use a Chinese calligraphy dictionary. So if you're also interested in calligraphy or carving seals, you can use a dictionary like the one that I used was shufazidian.com. Very easy, just means calligraphy dictionary in Chinese. They have different scripts there, and if you type in a character and select a script, it will show you that. I'll leave a link below if you're interested. And do be aware, though, the website is in Chinese. So I used that to make this design, and then I tried to connect the characters as much as possible. I really like that without changing the meaning. As long as they're connected, I think it kind of flows better. It looks pretty cool. I also like when they touch the edges of the stone as well, so it's kind of cool. So with all that being said, I will now show you my carving process and the final results. So this is the stone that I purchased. Let's open it up. They wrapped it up for me in some paper. Here it is. I'm going to carve it on this side here. And this is, you can see this part on the top is beveled, so you're meant to carve on this side. I paid $3.30 for it, which is about $10, $11. And yeah. So typically, you're supposed to have some sandpaper to scrape this down. I don't have any, and I'm going to see if it works. If it doesn't, I'll just recarve it. It's not a big deal. I don't feel like going to get sandpaper for this one project because I don't think I'll ever do this again, or I won't do it for a long time. Also, I mentioned before they had some stands. I think I can show a picture of that if I didn't mention that already, but they have some stands that you will place this in, and you can spin it around, and it makes it easier to carve. I do not have one of those, and again, that's because I'm probably only going to carve one of these. I don't plan on carving too many more, so that's just how this is going to go. I will first write out and measure this and get a draft on this. I'm probably just going to use pencil. There are other ways to do that too. You can print it out. I haven't tried stencil paper, but I wonder if that would work. Like tattoo stencil paper. Anyways, I'm just gonna use pencil, and then I will use these two to carve it. These are very old and they're rusty, so hopefully I don't get tetanus. But I'm gonna try to avoid cutting myself anyways. I think these will be okay. I used to have more, I don't know where they are, and these are very cheap. And I think these are actually, this one is actually meant for lino cutting. But the stone is very soft. I'm pretty sure these will work. If they don't work, then you'll see me back here on a different day, and I'll go at it with a different blade. But that's the project for now. So I'm going to get that stencil started, and then we can get back into it. So I'm going to try to use pencil to put this on this tiny little stone and see if that works. If not, we will try to think of a different method. Okay, and I'm sorry if I bump this tripod here. I will try my best not to. It's more like a monopod, so it may be unavoidable. Anyways, I'm going to use the pencil here. Make sure I'm working on the right spots. And what I'm going to do first is put a line in the middle. And make a cross. So it's not super centered. I really kind of want to try the stencil paper. I'm not sure. I will think of a way to apply this, and then I will show it. But one thing I do want to mention real quick before is if you are doing this on your own, you need to mirror this because you're printing, just like lino printing or any other kind of printing, physical printing, the stamping, this needs to be mirrored. So when I engrave this, when I carve this onto the stone, I'll have to flip this image before I make the stencil. So yeah, the more you know. Cool, let me think of how to get this on there and we'll be right back. Okay, so I'm gonna show you now how I'm gonna get the stencil on. I did make a grid with pencil and I made a border with black, and that's because I want mine to have a border like in this image here. I want it to print exactly like this. I want the black to be the red and the white to be just be nothing. So it will take more engraving for me to do that, but I like that style more. This kind of seal is called a Zhuwen seal, apparently, but I've always referred to it as a yang seal. There's a yang type and an yin type, like yin yang, or yin yang is I think how Americans will say it. But apparently it can also be called a Zhuwen kind of seal, and it just means red characters. So the characters will be the part that is printed in red. Yeah, so I'm going to continue to use this image as a reference, and I'm going to use pencil to just draw it on, and then I will use Sharpie, which happens to be the exact thickness that I want, to kind of get them on here. If it's too thick, I'll get some sandpaper and start over, but I think this will be all right. I'll show a little bit of this process on the camera here, but I don't have an overhead, so I'm kind of sitting with my phone in front of me like this. As you can see, the phone right here. So yeah, I'll do what I can, but I will show you the results after. So for the stencil part, I didn't, like I said, I didn't have a stand, so I ended up just prying this against the table. That way I could get my hand at an appropriate level and also be able to apply enough force. That was the biggest issue, is because I would have to go over lines over and over again and then have the pencil be pushed down hard enough to actually leave a mark. After this, I ended up just putting marker over it, so during the carving process, when dust is getting on top of it, I can still see it very clearly. The problem with that, however, was I need to be extra careful because it would smear if I touched it. So I ended up just kind of blowing across the top of the seal so the dust would fall off, but I wouldn't smear anything. Anyways, here is a look at what the stencil actually ended up looking like. I took some time and I got it on with marker. Now I might have to make some artistic decisions here because, can I get this to focus, please? This is what it looks like. And as you can see, it's pretty dense, especially on this half. So doing a yang carving like I originally wanted to will be pretty difficult. So especially with these cheap blades that I have. So I am thinking I'm just gonna cave, even though it's not really what I wanted to do. I'm just gonna do an yin carving. Apparently that's called a baiwen, which literally means white characters. So the characters will be carved, basically I'll carve directly on that black line, and then I'll print and hopefully they'll stay white and everything around them will be red. So I think I will do that. So to do that with a border, I still want to get a border around it. I'll just have to carve again directly on that black line, but I'll have to leave some on the outside. So it'll still look like there's a white square. Yeah, I think it will be okay. I'm gonna give this some time to dry. Again, I will try to get as much of the carving process as possible on here. It's gonna be kind of difficult, but I'll just do what I did last time while marking this, and then I will print this and make any adjustments that need to be adjusted, and I should be done. Some people will also carve on the sides of their seal. I have not really done that before. I've done some really bad jobs at that, but maybe I'll try to do that in the future. We'll see. I don't know. Stay tuned. But yeah, let's go ahead and let that dry and then get to carving. So when I started carving on this other desk that I have. You can see the little Shiba there staring at me while I carve. I think I ended up moving over to the other desk eventually, but yeah, you can see here, this part is when I carved the border, and it's really hard to carve that edge without peeling over because I'm trying to get such a thin line. I have to leave some on the outside because of the type of seal that I'm carving now, and I don't know, it wasn't too bad, but not perfect. I don't know, a little bit of imperfection adds character to it, I guess. And then this is what it looks like, kind of partly carved when I started carving the characters, and then this is what it looks like here, actually completely carved. So let's get to printing. Okay, so I just realized I did not hit record on my phone and I hit record on my computer. So my face is recorded, but the work down here is not. So um, I did do a final print. I will show my reaction to that print right now.
Make sure I put even pressure on there. Oh, wow, that actually looks pretty good. Wow, that's actually pretty good. I'm happy with that. The lines are a lot sharper than I would like, but it's seal script, so I'm not actually upset about that. Wow, I don't even think I'll go over anything again. Just keep it as is. It's got the OG vibes to it. Wow, that's really cool. All right, I'm pretty happy about that. Good results there. So, well, I can actually show it on this camera here.
Um, yeah, so as you can see, I was very happy with that. This is what it looks like up close. And yeah, I don't think I'll change much. I might go back over some parts someday. Like I said, I also want to do a Yang stamp at one point. So yeah. Um, so this here says Cao Mei Sen Cang, and this is just Cao Mei Sen. So this is 4 characters. It is a little bit bigger than my original one, than the rabbit here, but yeah, I hope I can get an even bigger one eventually and do a Yang one where the letters are red instead of the background being red. So we'll see. Pretty happy with that. Maybe I'll make some minor adjustments, but yeah, overall pretty fun experience. So for those of you interested in seeing it stamped again, I will stamp it one more time here, since I didn't record it apparently. Okay. Stamp it right on this. Make sure you get even pressure. Cool, there we go. And there's a hair. Maybe my eyelash. Very good. All right, well, I'm going to go stamp this in some books and call it a day.
Let me know if you have any questions about seals and seals in general. Um, I might do a more in-depth video on them in the future. They're pretty cool. I also like Chinese calligraphy, so maybe more of that coming soon, especially when Spring Festival comes around. So cool. See you guys in the next video. Peace.